There are many weapons in Ninjala. Some are fast, some are slow, some allow you to perform some insane acrobatics, but of all the weapons in Ninjala, there's one weapon class in the game that is just an absolute tank and a powerhouse. It's a monster of an HP sponge, it's the king or queen of stun locks, and it can be very, very loud, much like myself, because I have a very loud voice. That's right. Today, we're jumping into our final weapon guide of Season 4, the Sound Hammers. Hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJman777 here today, once again, as one of your Ninjala ambassadors, to bring you yet another weapon guide, and coincidentally, the final weapon guide I will be doing for Season 4 of Ninjala. This, of course, is installment number 7 of my weapon guide series, and today we're going to be talking about a weapon that gives you just as many defensive options as it has offensive power, the Sound Hammers. But, as a special treat for the final guide of Ninjala Season 4, I enlisted the help of probably the best Sound Hammer player in North America, known as Naza, to help develop this guide and share some of his vast knowledge of the weapon. Now, while Naza won't be directly saying anything in this video, I communicated with Naza a lot while helping write the script. So, obviously, a lot of this information is information that I know a little bit about, but most of that information of, like, some of the combos and stuff actually came from Naza and stuff, so I have to give a huge shout out to Naza. So, of course, if you are enjoying these guides and you want to see more of them, I highly recommend hitting that like button as well as that subscribe button so you'll know when I upload another guide like this one. But you know the drill by now. The intro is out of the way, so let's talk Sound Hammers. This, of course, as always, is an in-depth discussion regarding everything these Sound Hammers have to offer. From the weapon kits to the combos, I will be showing off everything in both kits of the Sound Hammers. Much like my previous guides, though, there will be some information that may repeat, so I'll try and get through that repeat information as quickly as possible. Along with that, I'd also like to say that every weapon in Ninjala will change as patches come out. So some information in this guide is subject to change based on these patches and might not always remain the same forever. So, we're of course going to be starting with the Iron Noise here, which you can now see on the screen. Iron Noise hammers are the HP sponges of Ninjala. The Sound Hammers in general are the HP sponges of Ninjala. They can leave you stunned for long periods of time with their moveset. They're not easily KO'd, and one combo slip up from your opponent will allow a Sound Hammer to escape. And not only that, but Sound Hammers also have a plethora of defensive options to keep them safe as well. You're going to have to play smart to survive against a Sound Hammer and play a Sound Hammer, and you'll have to play tactfully, and you have to play how your opponent plays to truly master the weapon yourself and take advantage of these Sound Hammers. So, as you know, here we are on the weapon select screen, and as per usual, by highlighting over the weapon you want to view and hitting the plus button, we can bring up the weapon details. So, of course, to start, we're going to be looking over the Iron Noise before we move over to the drum beat. So the first thing we always want to look at when we bring up this menu here, the parameters menu, is obviously, the weapon parameters, which we can see in the bottom left corner, which determines the overall health and movement speed of the weapon. The Sound Hammers, as we can see, have a massive amount of starting health, sitting at 360 health. For reference, the Shinobi Beast gets 400 health. That's all, so the Sound Hammers themselves only have 40 less health than the Shinobi Beast. But unlike the Shinobi Beast, these Sound Hammers have a base movement speed, which is actually the lowest in the game. But it makes sense when you're a super tanky hammer anyway, and it sits, of course, at a base of 90. As many of you know, of course, in previous guides, I have mentioned that Sound Hammers in combo strings sometimes will often need one extra hit in your combo to actually deal with them. And now that you can actually see the parameters, you can truly see why. But that's enough of the weapons parameters. Let's move on and talk about the Iron Noise's Gum Kit. Starting off, we have a Gum Shot that has yet to be mentioned in a weapon guide, so we're going to need to do a full breakdown for these. They are the Gum Kunai. Gum Kunai are a fast-moving, fixed-range projectile that summon kunai to deal damage to your opponent. Like all gum shoots in the game, the Gum Kunai may vary in count and size depending on the amount of S energy the player possesses. A small bubble Gum Kunai will always summon 2 Gum Kunai, a medium bubble will always summon 3 Gum Kunai, and the large bubble will summon 4 Gum Kunai. Each individual kunai has its own hitbox, and they don't all travel at the same time, making them extremely good for stagger pressure and keeping your opponent potentially in place. If an opponent blocks the kunai and you're close enough to use a break attack, you can break their guard and bind them with their own guard because of the stagger from the gum kunai. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, unfortunately, the gum kunai have a few major weaknesses that prevents them from being super effective at their max distance. You see, gum kunai can only track your opponent when they are first summoned, meaning that players can bait kunai in one direction before moving in the exact opposite direction. On top of that, while the gum kunai are flying, they have barely any homing ability, so it makes it very difficult to hit gum kunai. They only fly in a relatively straight line, so it's better to use gum kunai in a more of mid to close range scenario. Be careful though, because if you're too close, you're actually going to miss the kunai as well, because your opponents can actually move toward the kunai, and the kunai will hit the ground and they'll go under you. Unfortunately though, because of this, the gum kunai tracking, the gum kunai also don't do a lot of gum damage as people would like either. Remember, as I already said, each kunai has its own hitbox, so missing one little thing of gum kunai means you're actually doing less gum damage outright. Sure, if you're running the Stealing Hyena Shinobi card with the extra gum damage assist code, gum kunai can bind decently. But even without Stealing Hyena, large gum bubble gum kunai can't outright bind on their own either. Honestly, it pains me to say it, but gum kunai are probably the worst gum shoot in the game currently, so if you're looking to go Ippon crazy, you're not really going to see it used much if you're using the Iron Noise and gum kunai. But if you're looking to play a bit more defensively and stagger heavy, the Iron Noise and the gum kunai can definitely help you with that, especially with some of the stuff we will be talking about later. As for the gum ninjutsu, though, on the Iron Noise, we have a ninjutsu we haven't quite seen in a while yet either in these guides, the Fujiyama Rocket. As you know, the Fujiyama Rocket is a projectile-based ninjutsu that launches a massive rocket, which then explodes into a massive AoE. It recently got buffed in Season 4 of Ninjala, and now travels faster than it used to, so it's much easier to catch multiple people with it. A great ninjutsu all around, Fujiyama Rocket is good for both BR and team battles. You'll often be seeing it in multiple battles day in and day out, it's just that good. But be careful, because if you're hit with anything while in the startup of Fujiyama Rocket, you're going to lose it automatically, and you will have just wasted your ninjutsu. You also have to be careful about your positioning as well when you're using Fujiyama Rocket, because if the hitbox of the rocket itself just happens to clip the wall in any way before it launches, it will explode inside the wall and right on top of you, which unfortunately will also waste your ninjutsu. There's one more thing I have to note though. As I said, Fujiyama Rocket is a projectile ninjutsu, meaning it can be stopped by other projectiles in mid-flight and forced to explode early as something like a gum shot is aimed directly at the rocket. So things like manually aiming gum shots, potentially like gum grenade, gum net, gum ghost, potentially, if you launch the rocket at the ghost, and even gum kunai, can just stop the rocket in its tracks, and it will explode the moment it hits any of these projectiles. However, these are just a few minor weaknesses with the Fujiyama Rocket, and honestly, these weaknesses, with the exception of the last thing I mentioned, are easily preventable just with simple positioning. It's still a super solid ninjutsu to use, so these downsides honestly shouldn't stop you from using Fujiyama Rocket in the slightest. But with that, that will cover the gum kit for the Iron Noise. So let's move on to the specials and abilities of the Sound Hammers. For our special, the Sound Hammers get a move that reminds me of this. Whether you're the one using it or having it used on you, this is definitely the reaction you would absolutely expect. The special itself is called Echoing Scream, and it's honestly one of the most versatile specials in the game. This special can be used offensively and defensively, and it's a great way to keep yourself in long fights over time. Echoing Scream creates a sound field in an AoE orb that's about the size of 2.25 training dojo lines created around the player. Upon contact with an opponent, Echoing Scream puts your opponents into a frozen stun state, because let's be honest, if you're getting hit with this thing, your opponent's eardrums are probably blown out because, well, it's just a big sound field. Of course, while your opponents are in this stun state, they can do absolutely nothing until the stun wears off, which gives you a fantastic opening to attack. Even if your opponents try to block the Echoing Scream though, it puts them in a block stagger state similar to the Gum Kunai as well. This special, honestly, Echoing Scream, it's like the rhythm guitarist in a band. If the rhythm is on, the rest of the band members can combo in. But if the rhythm is off, the song doesn't sound right, and the song honestly can't be performed to its maximum potential. Echoing Scream, in this fact, could be considered your bread and butter for KOs and Eppones on the Sound Hammers. This move is going to be used extremely often, and it pairs well with the first ability, which I will be talking about in a moment, so it's important to remember that as well. I did mention, though, that Echoing Scream, though, can also be used defensively. You see, while your opponents can't always touch the sound field to get to you directly, they may try shooting a gum shot at you. Well, guess what? Echoing Scream cancels most of those too. This makes Echoing Scream a perfect option to lay down on a drone for protection. However, Echoing Scream does have some weaknesses. For one, it has one of, if not the longest special cooldowns in Ninjala, so it can't be abused constantly. But there's more. As stated previously, Echoing Scream almost entirely protects you from direct attacks. Unfortunately, there are a few attacks and a few gum shots that you have to watch out for while trying to play defensive with Echoing Scream, as these attacks will pass right through and hit you. These attacks can be considered armored attacks, like the charging slash from the katanas, the back attacks from the prop hammers, the armored portion of the break hammer's power buster, overpowering wave from the surfboards, beyond the gum on any of the trick yo-yos, any of the yo-yo's basic attacks, as well as the gum shoot's gum laser, which will disappear upon making contact with you and the field, but it only will hit you once, gum ghost, which is not affected by the field at all and travels right through, and the gum grenade's fragment burst. And, well, of course, there's also Utsutsemi, but, you know, we're not going to talk about that one right now. But yeah, those are all the things that Echoing Scream can't necessarily cancel. If you think I missed any, please let me know in the comments below. But obviously, as you can already tell, based on the list, Echoing Scream isn't impenetrable. So please, you do have to remember that while using it. But that will bring us to our first ability, though, which helps with Echoing Scream's cooldown. This ability is known as Feedback, and all it does is lower the cooldown of Echoing Scream faster when normal and wide attacks are used. This is a nice ability because, as you'll see later, the only true attacks Sound Hammers have are normals and wide attacks, so this ability allows you to Echoing Scream an opponent, do some damage with normals and wides, then if you get the KO or Ippon, your Echoing Scream should be reset on the cooldown for the next player. It's a super nice ability, and it's obviously one you're going to be relying on a ton, obviously, when it comes to the combo section of this video. As for our second ability, we have the big weapon exclusive ability, Up Tempo, which increases your movement speed when your life is reduced a certain amount. Honestly, this ability's alright, but I don't think it's necessarily great. Sure, the speed boost is permanent while in this lowered health state, but if you just got out of a fight, you'll want to use your time to heal and escape more than anything rather than just running on the ground. So honestly, this ability is going to be used more as an evasive measure, if anything. But with that last ability being wrapped up, that will do it for the Iron Noise and Sound Hammer specials and abilities. So let's talk about the other Sound Hammer kit, the Drum Beat. Personally, myself and many others prefer the kit of the Drum Beat over the Iron Noise, mainly because its utility is a little bit better and way more consistent than the Gum Kunai. Starting with the Gum Shoot, as we normally do, of course, we have Gum Launcher. Gum Launcher, as we know, is a long-ranging gum shoot with decent homing abilities. With a relatively short cooldown, it's super nice to have on the Drum Beat because you can set up bind combos cleanly with a combination of this gum shoot and Echoing Scream. It is an extremely strong tool on this variation of the Sound Hammer and can be combined with so many Shinobi cards to make it stand out on a relatively slow weapon. As for the ninjutsu, we once again have the Dragon Lord. It's almost like we were just talking about this in the last guide. But Dragon Lord is a projectile ninjutsu that, much like the Gum Ghost, can go through walls while homing onto your opponents before exploding. The Dragon does unfortunately have a timer on it before it explodes, so if players are smart, they can actually avoid the overall explosion and the explosion timer. The bright side is, the Dragon Lord is a relatively fast charging ninjutsu that outputs about 230 damage. You're often going to get 3 Dragon Lords in a match, which once again should net you at least 3 Eppones. The The Dragon Lord's explosion also just happens to be a small AoE, allowing it to hit multiple players in the vicinity as well. Sounded like a bit of deja vu, didn't it? Well, either way, that actually covers it for the gum kit of the drum beat, and therefore, it actually covers both the kits of the sound hammers. So as per usual, in the next section of the video, we're actually just going to be going over the attacks of the sound hammers, as well as showing off some combos. When it comes to combos, the sound hammers are relatively simple to use. So there's really actually not going to be too many combos in this section of the video, as most of the combo flow for the sound hammers will actually remain the same. But for at least one combo in this section, I'm going to recommend a certain Shinobi card that actually makes sound hammers, and actually a lot of other weapons, incredibly powerful, and a lot of people do not realize it. Before, of course, we get into the combos though, we have to go over the basic attacks of the sound hammers. Of course, with this being a hammer class weapon, you're going to find that the animations for each attack, once again, are fixed in place, and of course, they will not change based on the combo performed. So, starting with the normal attack, your character will simply charge up a swing momentarily before swinging from right to left. Now, you may have noticed two things in particular with this attack. The first one is honestly pretty obvious. This attack is very, very slow. In fact, the sound hammers actually have the slowest normals overall in the game, so you're not going to be catching anyone off guard with a standard normal without an echoing scream first. The second thing you might have noticed, though, is that the normal attack fires a miniature sound projectile that stuns your opponent. That miniature sound projectile is known as a sonic bullet, and it's just a smaller version of Echoing Scream with homing abilities. What does this mean? Well, it means that if the projectile hits an opponent, as you already saw, they're going to be stunned for a short period of time, allowing for a follow-up. However, unlike Echoing Scream, these sound projectiles do not actually stop gumshoots, but they can still stop some attacks because, obviously, you know, it's a shock field. They're going to be stuck in it. Honestly, these sonic bullets are unique mechanics specifically to the sound hammers, and currently in Ninjala, there isn't another weapon in the game that can yet add an extra effect after their attack. As I already said, because it's a sound projectile, it does have one other unfortunate side effect, and that is online sometimes the sound projectile just won't appear or it won't home in on your opponent properly. So you do have to be aware of this, that if you do hit your opponent with a normal, sometimes that extra sound projectile will not just show up. The only reason it shows up for me all the time is because, well, I'm on the training range. And as you guys know, everything works like it should in the training range. Get on that, Ninjala. Please? I want this game to be perfect. The people want it. Hey, Ninjala, look at me. Look at me. The people want it. It's not just me. Anyways, yeah, this normal is a very unique normal, and it will be used a ton when doing combos. As for our back attack, or also known as our left-right attack, we have a fast and simple hammer spin, which creates a small AoE field around the player. Now, if you've been listening closely to this guide and been paying attention to some of these moves, you would have probably already guessed that this move is also a miniature echoing scream. However, this one does not create a projectile after the fact. In fact, this attack doesn't actually even do damage to your opponent. But if it hits your opponent, it will actually put them in a stun state, once again, for a follow-up. The back attack also can cancel certain projectiles if timed right as well. This move, however, does take a while to master, but it is the fastest move in the Sound Hammer's arsenal. It also gets a little bit of armor on the startup as well. You notice that there's a little shield that kind of flares blue on top of me here. That shield is armor, so it does get a little bit of an armored attack while performing that move. And of course, moving on to our next attack, finally we have our wide attack. And honestly, the wide attack is just basically a slower version of the Break Hammer's wide attack with no return spin. Instead, it just goes into the same direction. And unlike the wide attack on the Break Hammers, the wide attack specifically on the Sound Hammers, cannot be canceled once started. The moment you commit to a wide attack with the Sound Hammer, the entire animation has to finish before you follow up. This move still has its uses though, and we'll be using it in the combos too. So, with that being said, Are you ready to learn some combos? Well, of course you are, because that's what we're going to do in the next section anyway. Now, after some discussion with Naza, for these combos, he recommends that you always have this particular Shinobi card equipped. And this Shinobi card is simply known as Gum Boost Impact. Gum Boost Impact is a Shinobi card that creates a shockwave field in front of the player upon finishing a Gum Boost. And this impact can actually pop players into the air and force a potential parry system out of them. As I already mentioned, Echoing Scream does have a specific true combo with the Shinobi card, and that is this Shinobi card. Gum Boost Impact into Echoing Scream is 100% true, and players can do nothing about it. If you combine this with the Echoing Scream, it can lead to some very fast KOs if used properly with timing. But we're not actually going to be using GBI into Echoing Scream for this first combo. The first combo I'm going to show you is just a standard Sound Hammer string, so you can at least get the feel of the weapon. Oh, and one other thing. It doesn't matter actually which Sound Hammer you use for these combos, as they'll both work rather nicely. So to start, here's the basic combo flow for the Sound Hammers. You're always going to want to start any Sound Hammer combo with a simple press of the Y button to activate Echoing Scream. Following Echoing Scream, you are then going to go into a normal attack. Then you're going to go into a downward ZR attack. Once the animation finishes there, you're going to go into left-right ZR to stun your opponent once again. And then you are going to finish them off with another normal. Now, normally with this combo, you'd only really need to do an Echoing Scream into 2 normals to KO most weapons in the game. But as I said earlier, sometimes the sound projectiles that come from this standard normal on the Sound Hammers are not super consistent and they don't always hit your target. So that's why I incorporated more moves into this first combo. But I also kind of wanted to show off what you could do with all the Sound Hammer's basic attacks in a string as well. So that's why the combo, of course, looks the way it does. Now, for the next combo, I'm going to do something a lot of people are probably actually going to hate. We're going to, first off, use Naza's recommended Gum Boost Impact for this combo, which I will be referring to in the combo section as GBI. But, like I said, I'm going to be using something that a lot of people hate. Now, if you know about the current meta of Ninjala Season 4, you know that this particular item has plagued matches left and right because of its overall spammability. But with this combo, I'm going to show you how to use it right and not spam it. So, for this combo to work properly, you are going to need Gum Boost Impact as a Shinobi card equipped, as well as the Utsutsemi Master Shinobi card with the Gum Damage Up assist code, as well as Gum Boost Impact, of course, to take advantage of that boosted Scream from GBI. You can also do this combo by dealing gum damage to your opponent first, and then going in for this combo where you won't necessarily need the Utsu. But because I wanted to show all the options available for this combo, and Naza also wanted to show the option available for this combo as well, I'm going to show you the long route. So, here's the combo. To start this combo off, you're going to use a Gum Boost Impact and connect with your opponent. Immediately on connection with that Gum Boost Impact, you are then going to move into an Echoing Scream. Following the Echoing Scream, you're going to do a normal attack. After that normal attack, you are going to then jump out of the normal and then drop an Utsutsemi. Following dropping the Utsutsemi, which should have already staggered your opponent, you're going to Gum Shoot your opponent, which should bind them. After that bind, you are then going to finish your opponent with 2 more attacks, which is going to be basically your basic ender for most weapons in the game, which is going to be a downward ZR into ZR. Now, this combo is a lot trickier to actually pull off than it looks, mainly because due to the cancelable and slow animations of the Sound Hammers, you need to be a little more patient with this combo string. On top of that, in order to get the bind, you want to make sure that you actually jump over your opponent just before dropping the Utsu so you can get the follow-up Gum Shoot to connect from either the Gum Launcher or Gum Kunai. Sure, you can just drop an Utsu on your opponent to begin this combo, but honestly, it's only a matter of time before the Utsu semi-spam ability gets nerfed, and people are more than likely going to have to be using it more sparingly mid-combo rather than the air raids of Utsu spam that there are now. So I did, so specifically for this combo, I wanted to show everybody how to perform this combo the right way with the small weapon. So our third combo here, which is going to be a big weapon specific combo, is going to be this. You're going to start with the same opening that you used to here. You're going to start with Gum Boost Impact into Echoing Scream. Following the Echoing Scream, you are actually going to jump and then do a normal attack. Following that, you do need to use your Gum Shot with your big weapon. Then after that, you're going to, of course, do the final 2 hits. You're going to go downward ZR into ZR, and you do need that, and of course, that extra ZR, that last ZR, is very specific for hammers. Now, what's strange about this combo is that you might have noticed that my big bubble bound. Well, obviously, I'm running Stealing Hyena, and it is something you are going to want to do as well. But what's strange about this combo is that even with Stealing Hyena, this combo specifically will not bind at point-blank range with the Iron Noise, because 2 of the big Gum Kunai will actually end up missing and not track onto your opponent properly. So it's actually important to remember to either jump away before using the big Gum Kunai with the Iron Noise, then after you shoot, then you immediately have to go for a wide attack, because you want the wide attack and the Gum Kunai to stagger, and you want that bind to be while in a stagger. So that's very important to remember as well. Now, of course, for our final combo here, I love to show off at least one ninjutsu combo in these videos. So let me show this one in particular. For this ninjutsu combo, I am going to be using the drum beat, but of course, this will still work on the Iron Noise. And the combo is simple. It is called Feel the Noise. So if Jane could stop jumping in the background, that would be absolutely fantastic. So here is the combo. Instead of starting this combo with Gum Boost Impact into Y, you're actually going to start with a downward attack. So your wide attack, then after the wide attack, you are going to go into your Echoing Scream. Following the Echoing Scream, you are then going to jump. After you jump, you are then going to back dash. You want to dash backwards away from your opponent. After performing the back dash, you're going to want to use your Gum Shoot. And then, of course, to finish them off, you are going to want to, activate the ninjutsu button. Very, very important. They should be bound even if you perform this correctly with Iron Noise. So, yeah, it's going to kill no matter what. So, here's the combo. So, as you can tell, I actually decided to change up the last combo a bit. Initially, I had the same string you saw in the last 2 combos, but, like I said, instead of using Gum Boost Impact, I decided to just go with a standard wide attack this time. Honestly, though, the Sound Hammers do really have the simplest combo routes imaginable. It just becomes a matter of how effectively you can use their actual moves in the long run. But with the ninjutsu combo finally out of the way, that's actually going to do it for the combo section of this video. So let's move on to our final section of the video and discuss some Shinobi cards and weaknesses of the Sound Hammers. Now, just because the Sound Hammers are so limited in their movesets does not necessarily mean that they are limited when it comes to Shinobi card selection. But if you really want to make the most out of the Sound Hammers moves and, of course, their utilities and defensive options, here's what not only myself, but NASA recommend. The first one, obviously, comes directly from NASA, and honestly, I've been using this ever since NASA told me to use it with the Sound Hammer, and it, of course, is Gum Boost Impact. As you know, hitting an opponent with Gum Boost Impact can force them into a parry state prematurely, but it's also a great combo starter, and as I previously mentioned, combos true into Echoing Noise, or Echoing Scream. For the assist codes on Gum Boost Impact, I recommend assist code number 1, which increases the range of the Gum Boost Impact Blast, and assist code number 3, which will actually slow the movement speed of opponents hit by the Gum Boost Impact. A fun fact, though, about this, though, is that Assist Code 3 doesn't just slow the movement overall of other players, but it also affects their maximum jump height as well. This is a super good assist code to keep people in range, and it's much easier to land blows on a slowed opponent, which is why Assist Code 3 from GBI is so valuable. As for our second Shinobi card recommendation, I'm actually going to recommend Utsutsemi Master for once with Assist Code 1 and Assist Code 2, which will increase the range and gum damage of the Utsutsemi explosion. The main reason, of course, I recommend this card is because you're able to keep your opponents locked into stun states for long periods of time, which give you solid opportunities to bind people consistently without needing to spam the Utsutsemi. So be sure, of course, when you're using Utsutsemi Master, take advantage of the stun players by adding a little extra gum damage to them and then following up with a free bind gum shot. And of course, finally, for my third recommendation, I'm actually not going to bring up a particular Shinobi card, but instead, I'd like to say that you should focus on a Shinobi card that has a movement speed up assist code. Obviously, the reason for this should be self-explanatory, but being the slowest weapon in the game, in basically every aspect, you want to do whatever you can to catch up to players, so having movement speed assist codes in some way will help you in the long run. Of course, I also do recommend stealing Hyena for the low health route bind combos. Now, these work specifically mainly with small weapon, and they're super good for big weapon combos as well. So there's nothing wrong with running stealing Hyena or starting dash in either of those slots as well. But stealing Hyena is honestly a very good card for what it is, and a lot of people should be running it now. Now, granted, you can still get binds without stealing Hyena nicely, but I really like stealing Hyena because it gives you a little bit more momentum, especially if you want to play a bit more Epone heavy with the Sound Hammer. But of course, that will cover it for the Shinobi card recommendations. So let's talk about some weaknesses of the Sound Hammers, which honestly, a couple of these are pretty big, so I'm going to be bringing this up. As the slowest weapon in the game, playing the Sound Hammer, you are going to want extensive knowledge of your weapon matchups when you are playing Sound Hammer, so you can counter other players' weapons and their faster weapons with your more slow and focused defensive stance. As Naza says, you want to play your opponent's game when playing the Sound Hammer. Find the opening in your opponent's game and then take advantage of that. Of course, if you delay your strategy too long, you're going to be overwhelmed by your opponent's speed. Strike too soon, and you're going to also be avoided. So you want to find a nice balance when it comes to this slow but powerful weapon. Another weakness of the Sound Hammer, of course, is the over-reliance that it needs on Echoing Scream to perform some very solid combos. Obviously, Echoing Scream is the best move in the Sound Hammer's arsenal, so you're going to be using it a bunch. But because most experienced players playing against the Sound Hammer look out for Echoing Scream, and they look out for the Echoing Scream opening, you may have to, and they may try to bait you into using your Echoing Scream early. Playing at Sound Hammer is all about being one step ahead of your opponent and using your cancellation options to your advantage. So don't ever overuse Echoing Scream. But for now, that actually is the last point I really wanted to bring up, and that will actually just about cover it for this weapon guide. As a quick reminder, again, I would just like to inform everybody that the information in this guide is always subject to change based on game balance patches that come out throughout the Ninjala seasons. So everything that works in this guide now may not necessarily work later, or it may work even better later. But regardless, I still hope you found all this information useful too. Of course, if you enjoyed this guide for the Sound Hammers in Ninjala, let me know in the comments section below, as well as letting me know if I missed anything important in this guide to help improve on the next guide. I also, once again, just want to give a huge shout out to Naza for helping me put some of this information together in this guide. As I already said, Naza is probably the best Sound Hammer in the North American region, so I can't thank him enough for helping out with the guide and the script for this video. If you enjoyed the video, though, as always, feel free to hit that like button, as well as doing me a favor and hitting that subscribe button for more content like this on the channel. By hitting the subscribe button as well, I'd like to always inform everybody of our goal that we're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2021, and I definitely think that is possible. It would mean so much to me if we could hit 5,000 by the end of 2021. But other than that, before I go, I do have to give a quick shout out to my donators over there on Patreon, MickeyPhorGens, Thomas, and Styleno for their continued support of the channel. And as always, this is CAJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.